So Gary, for those who might not know, you're the chairman of our elder board, and at our last congregational meeting, you mentioned that you want to send out a monthly email update on where we're at with our interim pastor search, and you did that just this week. And so we wanted to do a companion podcast for the congregation for, for one, for anybody who might not have gotten the letter and wants to know where we're at, but also to just kind of clarify where we're at with the search, what's going on here at the church, and maybe just a little more detail into what you put in the letter. So for those who might not have read it, just give a simple overview of what's going on with the interim pastor search.
Sure. We talked about a couple things in the letter. The first thing we talked about was the interim pastor's ministry and our decision to go move forward with them. And so we're doing that. And we'll be soon looking for an interim pastor to work with us at Lakeview Church. I also talked or wrote about the ministry activities that we have going on for the fall. So that's generally what we talked about.
So in your letter, you had a line that said that we will soon be having IPM looking for interim pastor candidates. So what do we mean by soon? Is that 3 days? Is that 3 weeks, 3 months?
That's a good question. So what Interim Pastor Ministries does is they have you fill out a variety of forms. Some forms about where is the state of our church, what do we think we need. Another one is financially, what financial resources do you have, and then we give that information to Interim Pastors Ministry, and they put all of that into a blender and turn it on, and they have a whole series of candidates that are across mostly the Midwest, and they're going to be looking for a match between the things that we feel we need, the resources that we have, and the things we would like to accomplish. All of those get put together, and Interim Pastor Ministries begins the search. Generally, and this is what we're told, it takes anywhere between 3 and 6 weeks to find an interim pastor. When we find an interim pastor, then we'll begin a series of discussions. Of course, one of the discussions is going to be with the elders, and we'll be talking with them, but also we'll make time available for anybody who wants to stop by and talk to the interim pastor. Then we'll ask the interim pastor or the potential candidate to preach and share a sermon, and then after that, we will have a congregational meeting, and then we'll vote on whether we want to endorse having the interim pastor or not. As I said in a couple letters ago and a couple letters a couple times, in general, finding a new pastor is not something you can do on a weekend. It takes a substantial amount of time, usually between 12 and 18 months.
Yeah, so finding an interim pastor, then if we're looking at a year to year and a half, that's not a long time in the grand scheme of things, but a long enough time that say we get IPM gives us a candidate, and he comes and preaches, and we think, man, he seems like a great guy, but man, his preaching is really dry. I don't know if I can listen to that for 18 months. What happens if something like that were to happen? Or maybe we just don't really like the guy. His preaching is really good, but we don't have a good feeling about his personality. Mm-hmm. Something like that were to happen. Well, what happens then? Are we stuck with him?
No. That's what the vote of confidence is about. If the vote of confidence isn't sustained, then we'll ask interim pastors to give us another candidate. And then we're going to probably start the same cycle over again, 3 to 6 weeks. Ultimately, it is in Interim Pastor Ministries' best interest to find us the best candidate that matches our needs and resources. So they're going to try really hard to do that. But ultimately, the decision is ours whether or not we want to call an interim pastor to work with us.
Right. So an interim pastor, per the name or per the title, is to serve in the interim. When he's not meant to be here for 5 years or 10 years or anything. He's meant to fill this gap in between Andy, our last pastor, and whoever we have to replace him. So you mentioned in the letter that they're going to be preaching, they're going to be help managing the staff, helping with the search for the replacement. So in a sense, are we looking just for a temporary Andy until we find a new Andy, or is an interim pastor something different than a short-term senior pastor?
There are two general types of interim pastors that you can ask. One is essentially an individual who will replace your lead pastor in preaching, doing pastoral support, and managing the staff. Stop. and then the rest of the activities that you would need to do, supporting the board, working with the board on, identifying more detailed information on what kind of pastor you would like to call and helping you with the search. They won't be doing that. That's one type. There's another type of interim pastor called an intentional interim pastor. Sure. The intentional interim pastor does the first three things. So they'll be preaching, they'll be supporting the staff, and they will be doing pastoral support. But they also work with the overseers or elder board in helping the elder board further refine the kind of lead pastor they want. They would do interviews with the congregation to get a sense for what kind of pastor we should be calling. And then they'll work with the church on the search team. So they can do a variety of things with that. They can just counsel us.
Sure.
They can actually be responsible for assisting us, or they can actually be responsible for. We haven't decided as an elder board which one of those three we want. It's likely we're going to have them to counsel us because we've done searches before, but we're not sure. So that's kind of part of the relationship that we'll be having with the new interim pastor, is working with them to help us find what kinds of qualifications and desires we want for our new lead pastor and help us walk that path so that we are successful in doing and finding a new pastor.
Sure. So to kind of sum it up, the interim pastor is meant to be to keep us afloat and keep us on course, not just passively like keep the ship from sinking,
right?
But he's not trying to start new initiatives or like chart a new course. He's trying to keep the progress going until we find the new guy. Is that a good way of
generally they're not going to be creating new things and starting brand new programs, brand new classes, generally no, but they will be working with the congregation and with the elder board and refining things that we should be doing or we could be doing, and then help us really get clear and focused on the type of new lead pastor that we would like to see. And they're trained specifically to do that. These interim pastors aren't just, somebody that's on the street. They're almost always retired pastors. Many of them are from the Evangelical Free Church, and they've been specifically trained to support churches in this transition process. And they have a mentor. They have a mentor from Interim Pastors Ministry that guides them in that process. So we felt that we being the elder board, felt that the Interim Pastor Ministry intentional pastor was really a good path to go.
Mm-hmm. So for those who might be concerned, how do we know that this interim pastor is going to have not just good beliefs, but agreeable beliefs with where Lakeview is?
Sure, that's a great question. Interim Pastor Ministry was and it's not Interim Pastors Ministry, it's Interim Pastor Ministry. So the English teacher in me is having a difficult time saying that. But Interim Pastor Ministry actually was birthed from parts of the Evangelical Free Church. If you look at their statement of faith, it's identical to the Evangelical Free Church, and many of the interim pastors are from the Midwest. Not all of them, but many of them from Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, Illinois. So they're from that area, and so their theology and their articles and commitment of faith is the same as ours.
Okay. And so obviously, we're not chiseling anything in stone on when we'll have the new guy, because like you said, maybe we get to the end of the round of the process and decide the guy just isn't for us, right, and have to go through another round of it. But ideally speaking, when does the board hope that we'll have an interim pastor here on the ground preaching, doing the work?
I'll tell you what I hope for. Yeah. It's up to God to make that decision, not Gary. And so we're scheduled in our sermon series to go out to November 9th. So it is my hope that by mid-November, we would have an interim pastor who would begin to take over the preaching role. And then we wouldn't be using either guest speakers or elders and staff to support that.
So then I assume that the time frame we're hoping on then even to get someone here to preach and to do that vote for the congregation is probably end of October, beginning November?
Yeah, I would say beginning November to mid-November. Again, 3 to 6 weeks. And if we use the 6-week timeline and then an opportunity for them to get here, then we might talk to 6 to 8 weeks. And if we start from now, that's beginning to middle of November. The other thing is that's important to think about is we're supporting their housing. So until we know who the interim pastor is, are they an individual? Are they a couple? We don't know. That really will color how quickly. I mean, they can come right away and start staying with some of our members, but that sort of gives us an idea of what kind of housing we need to provide for them.
Sure. And just so that people understand, generally interim pastors are retired pastors, so we're probably not getting someone who's 38.
No. They all of them had, and I don't remember off the top of my head the qualifications, but they are all pastors who've had years of experience in their own churches, and have retired.
So as we go through this time, especially the 6 to 8 week period, and even looking beyond that, you mentioned a couple of things in the letter, but what specifically would you desire people be praying for both you and the rest of the elder board?
Well, that God would give us discernment and wisdom, that God would sort of bind the evil one and allow us to walk through and do the things that we need to do, and support the staff, because you guys are doing an extra level of work, and we want really everyone to continue to be supported. So I think those are prayers I think that would be really powerful. I also think praying for the new lead pastor. So preparing the ground, sort of a Joshua going into Jericho. Let's march around with prayer, Jericho. And so when we pull the trigger, that falls down, we have a guy that we really feel comfortable and really supportive of that will come and be the lead pastor.
Yeah, I heard a pastor once say, whenever you're searching for a pastor, you're not trying to find the best candidate. You're trying to find the candidate God has for you,
right.
Which in one sense is a lot easier.
Yep.
In one sense is a lot harder.
Yeah. We want the person that God wants here, right, and that can move us forward. That's part of what we hope the interim pastor ministry candidate and ultimately interim pastor will help us with, help us refine the descriptions of what it is that we want, so we can easily find and quickly find a pastor that will meet our needs.
Sure.
I did talk about our fall ministry activities, but quite frankly, that information I got from you. So I'm going to ask you some questions, but I do want to let people know about our preaching series. So we will be starting a new preaching series on in Genesis chapter 12 to 17 about the family that changed the world, Abraham and Sarah. So that's what's coming up as far as the series is concerned. But more questions. Can you talk about the fall ministry activities as it relates to adult ministries?
Yeah, so we launched growth groups here just a couple weeks ago, and we've already got a few of those videos out for materials for people to discuss. We're starting here this fall with just a series that's kind of following along with the big ideas from the sermons, with all the guest speakers and everything. Mm-hmm. It's hard to really nail down exactly what they're talking about. So on our preaching schedule, there's a one sentence or so big idea, and so we took an idea from that and used it to make our fall growth group videos. And so that'll go for around 8 weeks, and then we'll be starting another short series kind of on our statement of faith, just as as we're going through this transition time of pastors. And I think it's good to remind people exactly where we stand on these things in our statement of faith, which is from the Evangelical Free Church statement of faith from the denominational level, is a very solid overview of Christian belief in general. And so we're going to kind of walk through that over the course of a few weeks before we hit Christmas. So growth groups have already launched. We're going to be launching our fall sessions. We had the women's sessions already started, but the co-ed sessions will be starting next week on Wednesday, as we've announced here. Mm-hmm. We've got Sexual Integrity 101 that's going to happen, and that's a follow-up to the Pure Desire conference that we had back in June. And so it's going to be talking about the biblical view of sexuality. It's meant to be educational. It's not a it's not an AA kind of thing where it's, hey, you have a bunch of problems, let us help you fix them, per se. It's an educational course on here's what God intended. Here's the design for human sexuality, per the Bible, and while also acknowledging that we are all sexually broken, and we the church want to help people who have walked through these things, maybe are walking through these things, or maybe will be walking through these things in the future. So that'll be one of the series, or one of the sessions.
Who's leading that?
Daryl Anderson will be leading that. It's a video series with then follow-up discussion, obviously.
And is there I don't remember if there's a book with it that you.
There's a book with it. I'm not sure if it's done off the top of my head between week to week, or if it's done during the session. But either way, there's a workbook to go along with the videos and this discussion as well.
Okay.
So that'll be the one co-ed session, and that's open for men, women, couples. Probably not kids of a certain age, by all means, but obviously I think that'd be up to the parents' discernment.
Sure.
But it's not just for men or just for women. It's for anybody and everybody, because again, we are all sexually broken in some form or fashion. So that'll be the one. The other one is following the sermon, aptly named because it will be following the sermon. Yeah. Jerry Hollandike will be leading that one, and it'll be taking the sermon text. And I think this one is especially useful this semester because we have all these guest speakers coming in, and we've already had a couple times where we had a little bit of miscommunication with our guest speakers on topics and scripture that they're using. And so it's, I think, a great time to take the text from the sermon and dig deeper into them, look at them from a different angle. Again, even with guest speakers, some of them may be the more difficult texts, especially as we go into Genesis. There's, as a guest speaker, you're only going to say so much. You don't know the people. You don't have the standing with the people. So, you should hopefully they stay true to the text, but you're not going to open up a can of worms in a church that you have never been to before that day. So I think it's especially timely to have one of our overseers leading this class. So we're going to dig more into those texts, and not necessarily deeper, but different angles and how that might apply to us in different ways at different times. And so, those will both be happening starting October 1st. That'll be next Wednesday
At 6:30. Okay.
Yeah. The sexual integrity course will be up in the fireside room. The following the sermon will be down in 113. And those will both be 8 weeks.
Okay.
And so that's what we've got going on right now. And hopefully, as we go through fall, both the growth groups and the sessions can help people, take that next step and learn, grow, and practice, grow in the 6 fundamentals, as we like to say.
Now, you and I are working on the membership class content and material, right? So we said we were going to have a membership class. Remind me what date that was?
It's going to start October 19th.
Okay, October 19th.
Yep, we're trying to switch it up a little bit, update some stuff, especially as Andy has now been called in another church, just some things that have now, are now out of date with our current materials. And so hoping to change it up a little bit, but it'll start October 19th is when we're starting it. Still hammering out some of the details, but we hope that people will join us then. That's a Sunday, by the way.
It's a Sunday, okay.
Yep, following second service.
Sure. So one of the things I didn't say in my letter was information about gospel communities. Can you give me a little bit more information about that?
Yeah, we're trying to re-examine right now how gospel communities fit into creating gospel-centered community, not just within the program, but as a broader, how do we create gospel-centered community for new people who are walking through the door?
Yeah.
Is it just this program? Is it more things? Is it less things? We're examining all of that. And so we still have 2 of them that are continuing on, one on Monday nights and one on Tuesday nights throughout the fall, once a month throughout the fall and into the spring as well. But just re-examining what that looks like here at Lakeview and how this all fits together to create that gospel community for people.
Oh, great. Oh, cool. That's all. Those are all of my questions.
Those were all of my questions too. So hopefully that helps people with, answer a few questions that they might have had after the letter or before the letter, or if they didn't even read the letter. But we'll be doing this. You said you'd be putting out the letter monthly.
Right. We're going to try and stick for this week-ish every month. So the next one will be coming out around the 17th or 20th, somewhere around there in October.
Yeah, so we'll then do this again as well for anybody who might want to dig a little bit deeper into what's going on here at the church and beyond the letter, and hopefully this clarifies anything that people might have. So if there are any other questions that you might have about what's going on, feel free to email me, ben@lakeviewfree.org. Do you want emails too?
Or if you see me at church, stop by and ask a question of any elder or any staff member. We should be able to either answer your question or find someone who can.
Absolutely. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.